I wanted to come out with this take and say this a little bit earlier in the process, but I wanted it to bake in the oven a little bit more. I ended up wanting this to bake, watch spring football, see what Georgia's got on offense, see what some of these other schools have on offense. I think Georgia's going to have the best offense in college football in 2024. That's my hot take, warm take. It's not a cold take, that's for sure. I think the Dogs will have the best offense in college football this coming season. It starts with Carson Beck, but you look around, you look at the rest of the roster, from the line to the weapons. There are spots where if they're not the best, they're one of the best in college football. And you put all of that together, you think about the progression with year 2 of Mike Bobo. I think this thing's going to improve. This is an offense that was very good last year, right? Obviously, Georgia had a few defensive touchdowns along the way, a couple special teams touchdowns along the way. But this is a team that put up 40.5 points per game in 2023, right? And put up just under that number in the previous 2 seasons. You think about that 2022 season where probably Georgia's best offense of the last couple of years was that season. They put up 41.1 a game. So my mistake. They put up 41.1 a game. I really think that this team can put up 45 plus a game in this season. You think about last year, LSU, Oregon, Washington, some of the really good offenses in college football. Well, Georgia was 5th. They were 5th with a run game that took a while to get going, with a rotating amount of injuries among your best players in Brock Bowers and Kendall Milton and Ladd McConkey. Carson Beck is a first-year starting quarterback. Mike Bobo dipping his toes back into the water with Georgia. Thunder. And you're going to get thunder from the Georgia offense too. You're going to get a little bit of lightning because they've got some fast guys as well. I know that Brock Bowers is gone, and that was the best offensive weapon Georgia's had since Nick Chubb. It doesn't help to take away Brock Bowers from a situation. But we saw that they were able to put up 40 without him against the Gators. Now, the Florida Gators were not a very good football team last year, haven't been for a couple of years. But we saw that the structure of this team is built to score. And they've got the guys. I think that on offense, they've got 3 things that I would consider the best. I trust Carson Beck more than I trust any other quarterback in college football right now. If you want to say it's Quinn Ewers, that's cool. I think it's those 2 guys. That's fine. I'm not going to argue with you if you tell me that Quinn Ewers is the best quarterback in college football. I will argue with you if you tell me that you can find a better offensive line unit than Georgia's, right? Georgia loses Cedric Van Pran. They lose Amarius Mims. I don't even really count the Amarius Mims loss in my head just because of how much they rotated and the injury situation with him. He really wasn't out there that much. Losing Cedric Van Pran hurts, don't get me wrong. But what we've seen and what has been spoken about in terms of Jared Wilson, this is a 4th-year guy now who's been waiting his turn and is apparently one of the most athletic centers that people have ever seen. You add that in there. You've got All-American guard and Tate Ratledge. You got Xavier Truss, who's been around for 6 years. You've got Ernest Green, who's foreseen as a future first-round pick potentially in this 2025 draft at left tackle. You've got a rotating guard situation with Dylan Fairchild and Micah Morris, who you just don't see a lot of it like that. And when they both come in and they're that good. So having Carson, having that line, immediately you're better than like 90% of the offenses in college football. Boom. Well, what's on the outside of that? What's outside of the trenches? You move out just a little bit, not that far, to that tight end position. I think that that's also the best tight end room in college football. I made a whole video about that recently where I discussed Georgia's tight end room being the best. I know that there are some good tight ends. I know Utah's got a good one. I know that Colston Loveland's good. I know that that Texas has a good one. That Alabama's a good one. There are plenty of good tight ends in the country. But as a collective group, the Georgia Bulldog tight end room is legit. And it starts with Oscar Delp, the guy who's been around the longest for Georgia. He's a dynamic pass catcher. He's not Brock Bowers, but you see him out there hurdling. You see him out there making one-handed catches. You see him bulking up and being able to block and hold his own on the edge and set the edge for Georgia offensively. Yes, It starts with Oscar Delp, and I think that he's one of the better tight ends in college football. I'm not saying he's the best, but you got Benjamin Yurosek, who's been around for a while too, and was one of the best tight ends in college football a couple of years ago before he dealt with injuries the last couple of years. He's had bad quarterbacks the last couple of years. Now you get a dynamic pass catcher in Benjamin Yurosek, a guy who can run all sorts of routes. This is a guy I've seen score on wheel routes. This is a guy I've seen score going up the seam on a vertical go. This is a guy I've seen be able to take a ball on the out route. This is a guy that was playing with way worse quarterbacks than Carson Beck. He upgrades to, oh, my quarterback's going to have time to throw and make a smart decision. Oh, my quarterback throws at a 72% clip. Oh, my quarterback is a Heisman front runner. Now you get Benjamin Yurosek in there. And that's just the first two. You're going to see both of them out there because they like to run that 12 personnel unit. They like to have two tight ends on the field. That helps them with the running game and the passing game. Having the versatility with that over the last few years with Brock Bowers has made that very easy for Georgia to be able to say, hey, we can do this, and we know that you're not going to beat us doing it. Well, now it's not as good because you don't have Brock Bowers, but Benjamin Yurosek can help play that role. Oscar Delp can play that role. I think that Lawson Lucky, this is going to be year 2 for Lawson Lucky. I believe he's going to take a red shirt from last year. Didn't play that much. Lawson's fast. Lawson's smooth. He's probably the smallest out of their tight end room in terms of muscle and height. He's the smallest guy, but arguably the fastest and the quickest, and a guy that you want to get the football into his hands. And then you go behind that, you got Jaden Riddell. If you get into a situation where people get hurt, I like Jaden Riddell, that freshman 5-star tight end, high 4-star, low 5-star tight end that they have out of Missouri. That was just the offense, the quarterback, the offensive line, and the tight end room. You move to the outside. Well, you take away Ladd McConkey and Marcus Hosby-Jackson from the situation. Marcus Hosby-Jackson should have been drafted. That's my side note. Ladd McConkey, obviously, one of the first couple picks in that second round of the NFL draft. He was very good for Georgia. He was wide receiver 1 for Georgia the last couple of years with Brock Bowers. Dominic Lovett was dominating the spring and dominating a good Georgia defense and what I think is a solid Georgia secondary. Maybe not as good as they were in years past because you're missing Javon Bullard and Kamari Lassiter, and they've had some legit secondary talent the last 5 years. Will that continue with Dalen Everett and Julian Humphrey, and I think Ja'Cory Thomas and Janelle Aguero? Those are the 2 spots I don't believe are set at star and at strong safety, free safety, right? It just kind of depends on where they line up. Malachi Starks, however, is one of the best. And if Dominic Lovett is dominating that group, then he's going to dominate other people as well. I think that Carson Beck and Dominic Lovett had good chemistry. I think that Dylan Bell is one of the more dynamic offensive players in college football. Calling him one of the best in college football is not necessarily fair to him or to the rest of the players because he just hasn't produced at that level. But this is a guy that's going to improve, and he's going to be good. Adding in Ra Thomas to that, Kobe Young to that, Anthony Evans to that, Michael Jackson III to that, London Humphreys. They just got a large group of players that can play that position at a high level, and so they're going to be able to rotate, but it starts there with Dominic Lovett and Dylan Bell. And then you improve the running back situation from last year. I'm leaning and getting all casual because of how good this offense is going to be. I really do think I'm not BSing you guys. I really do believe what I'm saying in this video. Real chance to have the best offense in college football, and I think that 45 points per game is in the question. Totally in the question for this team. Trevor Etienne is better than I think he's probably better than Kendall Milton and Dejan Edwards. I think that putting a guy like him into Georgia's offense, you'll see how much better he was than he was at Florida. Behind him, I'm not as sure about. Between Kendall and Dejan as a 1-2 punch, I think that was really good. I don't know if their 1-2 punch is better. I just think they're better at the top. If Branson Robinson is what he was pre-injury and what he can become, then yeah, it is better. I'm very high on Branson Robinson. I thought that he was going to have a really good year for Georgia ahead of that patellar tear injury. I thought that he could have ended up being the best running back. I really did think he was going to be the best running back for Georgia a year ago. I thought he was going to take that next step. Just a bowling ball of a running back, a little bowling ball. That's what I like to call him. If he can be healthy and play at a high level, then between him, Roderick Robinson, and Trevor Etienne, Cash Jones, and those freshmen. I think they're going to be really good players. Dwight Phillips Jr., Chauncey Bowens, Nate Frazier. I think that those guys are going to be good. I'm excited. Only Chauncey Bowens was around for spring practice, so we won't see. But are you telling me that the group I just described is not going to be one of the best offenses in college football? You look at what Oregon has. I think they'll be good. I think Texas's offense will be good. I think Ole Miss's offense will be good. I think that Ohio State's will be good. It will be dependent on how well Howard plays, and I do think he'll be good for them. Won't be as good as Carson Beck, though. Thanks for watching.